Chosen one, what if I told you that in the next 72 hours, God is going to test whether you're truly His chosen one, or just another believer who talks about faith but runs when it's time to walk? What if the very breakthrough you've been desperately crying for is about to pass by your door this weekend, and you're going to miss it because you're too comfortable, too distracted, too afraid to recognize heaven's knock? What if your entire destiny hinges on what you do or don't do between now and Tuesday night? Chosen one, I need you to lean in close. What I'm about to share isn't just another inspirational message. This is a prophetic alarm that heaven has been sounding, and most believers are sleeping right through it. You see, there's something the enemy doesn't want you to know. Your prayers haven't been ignored, they've been scheduled. And God has marked this Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday as the days when delayed answers finally break through the veil. But here's the devastating truth. Divine appointments don't wait for your convenience. Right now, as you're watching this, heaven is preparing to release what you've been fasting for, weeping for, believing for. But it's wrapped in a package you won't recognize. It's coming disguised as an uncomfortable decision, an impossible step of faith, a divine interruption to your normal routine. It's Sunday, but not just any Sunday. This is the knock at the door. Will you answer it, or will you sleep through it again? Listen, beloved. I've walked with the Lord for decades, and I've learned that God's greatest moves often feel like the greatest risks. That restlessness in your spirit, that stirring you can't explain, that's not anxiety. That's heaven's GPS recalibrating your life for breakthrough. You've prayed for breakthrough. You've begged God to move. But what if it's knocking now, and you miss it because it doesn't look like what you expected? In the next 3 days, some of you will look back and realize you stood at the crossroads of your destiny and chose fear over faith. You chose comfort over calling. You chose the familiar path over the supernatural highway God was opening. If your spirit is stirring even just a little, and I know it is because heaven orchestrated this moment, write this in the comments. I'm listening, Lord. This might be the most important 3 days of your life. And your response to this message is your first test of obedience. Thank you to every single one of you who has supported this message through super thanks. Your generosity means more than you know. You're not just giving, you're helping spread light to others who feel forgotten in their calling. Whether you sow a seed tonight or simply stay present with an open heart, I'm grateful for you. If this message is stirring something deep in your soul, go ahead and support however the Spirit leads you. Because what I'm about to reveal may be the reason your prayers have felt delayed for years, but that delay ends now if you act. The question isn't whether God is moving. The question is, will you have the courage to move with Him when it costs you everything comfortable? Why do you think God chose Sunday to begin creation? Why did Jesus choose Sunday morning to conquer death? And why do you think heaven has been whispering your name every Sunday for the past 3 months, but you've been too busy to listen? Chosen one, what if I told you that every Sunday you've ever lived was preparing you for this one Sunday? What if every prayer you've whispered in the darkness, every tear you've shed in secret, every moment you've wondered if God has forgotten you, what if all of it was leading to this exact weekend? You've lived through decades of Sundays. You've seen wars end and begin. You've buried loved ones and celebrated births. You've watched the world change in ways you never imagined when you were young. But what if the most important 72 hours of your entire existence are still ahead of you? Listen carefully, because what I'm about to reveal will shake everything you think you know about divine timing. God doesn't speak through calendars by accident. When He marks specific days, it's because eternity is about to intersect with time. And right now, heaven's calendar has 3 days circled in red: Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. Let me take you back to the very beginning. Genesis 1-3, -5. And God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. And God saw the light, that it was good, and God divided the light from the darkness. And God called the light day, and the darkness He called night. And the evening and the morning were the first day. The first day. Sunday, the day God spoke light into existence. Not just any light, the light that separated everything that was from everything that could be, the light that made all other creation possible. But here's what will stagger you. That same creative power, that same divine light, that same God who spoke worlds into existence is preparing to speak something new into your life this Sunday. The question is, are you positioned to receive it? Jump forward thousands of years. Matthew 28:1. In the end of the Sabbath, as it began to dawn toward the first day of the week, came Mary Magdalene and the other Mary to see the sepulchre. Sunday morning, resurrection morning, the day death lost its grip, the day impossibility became reality, the day the grave clothes were left empty because what was dead refused to stay buried. Do you see the pattern? Sunday isn't just another day on the calendar. It's God's signature day for new beginnings. It's the day He specializes in making dead things live again. It's the day He turns mourning into dancing and ashes into beauty. But here's what's going to absolutely devastate you if you miss it. What if your resurrection moment is scheduled for this exact cycle? What if the thing that's been dead in your life, your hope, your health, your finances, your relationships? What if God has marked this Sunday for its resurrection? You see, the enemy has been working overtime to convince you that your best days are behind you. He's whispered lies that at your age, it's too late for miracles, too late for dreams, too late for God to do something spectacular. But God doesn't see your age, He sees your appointment. He doesn't count your years, He counts your readiness. And right now, heaven is preparing to prove that resurrection power isn't limited by how many birthdays you've celebrated. Now let me ask you something that's going to expose where your faith really stands. If God could raise Jesus from the dead on a Sunday morning, why are you living like He can't raise your situation from the dead this Sunday morning? The God who spoke light into darkness is the same God who's about to speak life into your deadness. The God who rolled away a stone is the same God who's about to roll away the stone that's been blocking your breakthrough. The God who made the impossible possible 2,000 years ago is the same God who's making the impossible possible right now. But here's the part that's going to require everything you've got. Divine appointments demand divine responses. When God marks days on His calendar, He's not making suggestions, He's issuing invitations that require immediate action. Sunday is the setup. Monday is the shift. Tuesday is the seal. 3 days. 72 hours. The same time frame Jesus spent in the tomb before resurrection, power exploded through every limitation. You've been in your tomb long enough. You've been bound by grave clothes of disappointment, fear, and delay long enough. You've been mourning over what died long enough. This Sunday, God is preparing to speak to your specific situation. Monday, He's going to require movement from you. Tuesday, He's going to seal what you've obeyed with His irreversible favor. Comment your city and state below. We are mapping where heaven's alarm clock is going off. Don't scroll, don't delay. Don't treat this like another message. Obedience begins with recognition, and recognition begins with response. You see, beloved, the voice you're hearing right now isn't just mine. It's the same voice that called light out of darkness. It's the same voice that called Lazarus out of the tomb. It's the same voice that's been calling your name through every season of silence. But here's the question that's going to determine everything. When resurrection power knocks on your door this Sunday, will you answer? Or will you let the greatest opportunity of your lifetime pass by because you were too afraid to believe God still has miracles with your name on them? Because what happens next isn't just about 3 days on a calendar. It's about whether you'll spend the rest of your life knowing you were invited to your own resurrection and chose to stay in the tomb instead. You know what terrifies the enemy more than your prayers? Your understanding of God's timing. Because once you crack the code of how heaven operates, you become unstoppable. Listen carefully, chosen one. God has never done anything randomly, not once. Every move of heaven follows a divine pattern that most believers never recognize. And right now, that pattern is screaming at you through these 3 days. God didn't randomly choose a burning bush for Moses. He could have spoken through a rock, a cloud, or a thunderstorm. But he chose fire that burns but doesn't consume, because Moses needed to see that God's presence preserves what it touches. The timing wasn't random either. It was precisely when Moses was ready to hear, ready to receive, ready to move. God didn't randomly choose Purim for Esther's intervention. He orchestrated every detail: the sleepless night of the king, the forgotten honor for Mordecai, the exact moment when Esther would find favor. 3 days of fasting led to the perfect moment of breakthrough. So why do you think Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday are burning in your spirit right now? Why do you think heaven led you to this message at this exact hour? Because God is about to reveal the same pattern He's used throughout history, and you're standing at the threshold of your own divine intervention. Here's what will shock you. Heaven runs like a train station. Some doors only open for 60 seconds. If you don't board, it doesn't wait. The train to your destiny doesn't circle back because you weren't ready. This is one of those trains, and it's pulling into your station right now. But most believers miss it because they're looking for a sign while standing in the middle of one. They're waiting for a feeling while heaven is demanding a decision. They're praying for clarity while God is calling for courage. Let me break down the divine blueprint that heaven is downloading into your spirit right now. Sunday equals revelation. This is when God whispers the strategy. Just like He told Joshua exactly how to take Jericho, not through conventional warfare, but through obedience to an unconventional plan. Sunday is when heaven downloads the blueprint that makes no sense to your mind, but every sense to your spirit. The instructions may sound impossible, illogical, even dangerous to your comfort zone, but that's how you know it's from God. Monday equals obedience. This is when the whisper becomes a command, and the command demands movement. Abraham didn't get a roadmap when God said, "Leave your country." He got a direction: go. Noah didn't get architectural plans when God said, "Build an ark." He got a purpose: preservation. Monday is when you stop analyzing and start acting, when you stop questioning and start trusting, when you stop hesitating and start walking. Tuesday equals breakthrough. This is when your obedience collides with God's promise and produces the miraculous. When the walls of Jericho fell, when the Red Sea parted, when the lion's mouth was shut, it was always after the step of faith, never before it. But here's where most people stumble and lose their breakthrough forever. They're waiting for Tuesday's results before they take Sunday's revelation seriously. They want the breakthrough before the obedience. They want the miracle before the movement. Some doors are motion activated. They open when you step forward, not before. You're waiting on God, but He's waiting on your movement. Right now, some of you are arguing with this message in your mind. You're thinking, "But I need more confirmation. I need to be sure. I need to feel ready." That resistance you're feeling, that's not wisdom. That's fear dressed up in spiritual language. God didn't wait for Moses to feel confident before He called him to Egypt. Moses stuttered, made excuses, begged God to send someone else. But when God says move, your feelings don't get a vote. Your fears don't get a veto. Your comfort doesn't get to negotiate with heaven's timeline. Esther didn't feel ready when Mordecai told her the fate of her people was in her hands. She said, "If I perish, I perish." That wasn't recklessness. That was radical obedience to divine timing. David didn't feel qualified when Samuel anointed him king while he was still a shepherd boy. But God's calling doesn't wait for your qualifications to catch up. The pattern is always the same. God reveals, you respond, heaven releases. But here's the part that will either liberate you or devastate you. This pattern only works within the window God opens. Miss the window, and you'll spend months or years wondering why your prayers feel like they're bouncing off the ceiling. I've watched believers spend decades waiting for another opportunity, like the one they let slip by, because they chose comfort over calling. They chose the familiar over the supernatural. They chose their timeline over God's timeline. Don't let that be your story. Right now, in this very moment, heaven is holding its breath, waiting to see what you'll do with Sunday's revelation. Will you recognize the knock at your door? Will you answer when opportunity calls your name? Will you step forward when every fiber of your being wants to step back? Because what happens next isn't just about the next 3 days, it's about the rest of your life. The choice you make in the next 72 hours will echo through every day that follows. The train is at the station. The door is open. Heaven is calling your name, but the conductor won't wait forever, and the next stop isn't guaranteed to be yours. Chosen one, let me ask you something that might sting a little. How many times in your life have you felt God nudging you to move, to act, to step out in faith, and you said, "Lord, just give me a little more time"? How many chances have slipped through your hands, not because you were wrong, not because you weren't capable, but because you hesitated just a little too long, because you waited for a clearer sign, a safer moment, a more convenient season? I want you to think back, really think back. Was there a moment in 1997 when you felt that stirring in your spirit? Maybe it was about a relationship you should have pursued, a career change you should have made, a word you should have spoken to someone who needed to hear it. What if that blessing you missed was just one step of obedience away? Here's what breaks my heart about delay, and I've counseled thousands of believers over 5 decades. The enemy's greatest weapon isn't temptation, it's procrastination. He doesn't need to make you fall into sin. He just needs to make you fall behind on God's timeline. Listen to what Ecclesiastes 11:4 says. Whoever watches the wind will not plant. Whoever looks at the clouds will not reap. You see, delay is not always waiting. Sometimes it's disobedience dressed as prayer. Sometimes it's fear masquerading as wisdom. Sometimes it's rebellion wrapped in religious language. Let me paint you a picture. Every divine opportunity has an expiration date stamped on it by heaven. Not because God is cruel, but because timing is everything in the kingdom. When the children of Israel reached the promised land the first time, 12 spies went in. 10 came back with a report of giants. 2 came back with a report of grapes. Same land, same giants, same God. But 2 different responses to the same opportunity. The 10 who hesitated spent 40 years in the wilderness. 40 years. That's not just a long time. For some of them, that was the rest of their lives. They died in the desert, clutching promises they never had the courage to possess. Now here's what haunts me about that story. Those 10 spies weren't cowards. They weren't faithless. They saw the same grapes Joshua and Caleb saw. They acknowledged God's power. But they wanted more time to prepare, more assurance, a safer strategy. They wanted God to move the giants before they moved their feet. But God said, "The giants are part of the test. Your willingness to face them while I'm with you is what qualifies you for the promise." How many promises are you still circling in the wilderness of delay? How many doors did God open that you're still standing in front of, asking Him to open them wider? How many divine appointments have you rescheduled because the timing felt inconvenient? Here's the raw truth that's going to cut deep. Every day you delay is a day stolen from your destiny. Every week you hesitate is a week your breakthrough is redistributed to someone else who's ready to move. God's gifts don't sit on shelves waiting for you to feel ready. They flow to those who step forward in faith while their knees are still knocking. I've watched believers spend 20 years praying about opportunities that required 20 minutes of courage. I've seen people miss their Isaac because they were still debating whether to leave their Ur. I've counseled 60-year-olds who are still waiting for the perfect moment to answer a call God gave them at 30. The Bible says in 2 Corinthians 6:2, "Behold, now is the accepted time. Behold, now is the day of salvation, not tomorrow, not when you feel more prepared, not when the circumstances align perfectly. Now." But here's what delay really costs you. It's not just missed opportunities, it's compound interest on regret. When you delay God's instructions, you don't just miss what He wanted to give you, you miss what He wanted to give through you to others. Your delay creates a ripple effect of missing miracles in other people's lives. That person you were supposed to encourage, they gave up hope last Tuesday. That business you were supposed to start, someone else launched it last month with your idea. That relationship you were supposed to heal, they moved 3 states away last year. Your delay doesn't just hurt you, it orphans the people who were supposed to be blessed through your obedience. This isn't about hype, beloved. This isn't about emotional manipulation. This is heaven saying, move now, or miss what was meant for you. This is God honoring his timeline over your comfort zone. There's something in the spiritual realm called holy urgency. It's different from human panic or worldly pressure. Holy urgency is when the Spirit of God accelerates your heartbeat because a window of opportunity is about to close. It's when heaven leans down and whispers, if not now, when? If not you, who? Moses felt it at the burning bush. I'll send someone else, he said. God's response wasn't gentle, it was firm. Number you. Now, Esther felt it when her people faced extinction. Maybe you were born for such a time as this, Mordecai told her. She could have delayed, consulted more advisors, waited for a better strategy. Instead, she said, if I perish, I perish. And she saved a nation. You're feeling it right now, aren't you? That stirring, that uncomfortable nudge, that sense that these next 3 days aren't ordinary. That's not anxiety. That's anticipation from heaven. Here's what I want you to do right now. I want you to write this down. Get a pen, get a piece of paper, and write these words. I will not delay anymore. Make it your vow. Make it your declaration. Make it your line in the sand. Because Sunday is coming whether you're ready or not. Monday will arrive whether you feel prepared or not. Tuesday will close whether you've acted or not. The question isn't whether these days will pass. The question is whether you'll pass through them into your destiny, or let them pass over you into regret. What sacred assignment have you been postponing? What divine conversation have you been avoiding? What holy risk have you been too afraid to take? Chosen one, here's what breaks my heart. Every single week, I watch believers stand at the edge of their miracle and walk away because they don't know how to position themselves for breakthrough. They pray for rain but refuse to build an ark. They cry for deliverance but won't follow the blueprint heaven provides. You want to know why your prayers feel like they're bouncing off the ceiling? Why breakthrough seems to visit everyone else's house but yours? It's not because God doesn't love you. It's because you're trying to receive a supernatural answer with a natural posture. Listen to me carefully. These 3 days, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, they're not just calendar dates. They're a divine algorithm. Heaven operates on patterns, and when you align with heaven's rhythm, breakthrough becomes inevitable. But miss the rhythm, and you'll watch opportunity drive past your window while you're still getting dressed. Let me show you the sacred blueprint that unlocked miracles for the giants of faith. This isn't theory, beloved. This is the roadmap that turned slaves into kings, outcasts into queens, and persecutors into apostles. Sunday is Sanctification Day. This is when you clear the altar of your heart. You see, God doesn't speak to cluttered souls. He whispers to those who've made space for his voice. Joseph understood this. Before he interpreted Pharaoh's dream, Genesis 41-14 tells us he shaved and changed his clothes. That wasn't vanity, that was sanctification. He prepared himself to receive heaven's download because he knew breakthrough requires a clean vessel. Here's your brutal truth. That Netflix addiction, that social media scrolling, that constant noise you surround yourself with, it's not just entertainment, it's interference. It's static drowning out the frequency of heaven. This Sunday, you don't just need to pray more, you need to eliminate the noise that's been sabotaging your reception. I'm talking about a complete digital detox. Turn off the phone, shut down the distractions, fast from the things that feel normal but are keeping you spiritually numb. Because God is preparing to download specific instructions for Monday and Tuesday, but he won't compete with chaos for your attention. The question isn't whether you can afford to fast. The question is, Can you afford to miss what God wants to whisper to you this Sunday? Monday is Obedience Day. This is when Sunday's whisper becomes Monday's action. And this is where most believers forfeit their breakthrough. They hear God speak, but they want to think it over, pray about it more, get confirmation from 3 people and their pastor. But here's what Esther knew that saved an entire nation. When Mordecai told her to approach the king, she didn't debate. She didn't negotiate. Esther 4:16 records her response. If I perish, I perish. She moved on the instruction even though it could cost her everything. That uncomfortable nudge you're going to feel Monday morning. That person God tells you to call who you haven't spoken to in years. That job application you've been avoiding because you feel unqualified. That conversation you've been postponing because it's difficult. That's not random. That's your assignment. God is going to ask you to do something Monday that doesn't make sense to your natural mind. You're going to feel underprepared, underqualified, and uncomfortable. That's the point. Breakthrough lives on the other side of your comfort zone, and God is about to ask you to jump. When you obey the whisper, you unlock the window. That's how heaven works. Obedience isn't the result of understanding, it's the key to understanding. You don't wait until it makes sense. You move because God spoke, and then watch Him make it make sense. The Apostle Paul learned this on the Damascus Road. Acts 9-6 shows us that the first thing Paul asked wasn't, "Why me?" or "How do I know this is real?" He asked, "Lord, what do you want me to do?" Immediate surrender. Instant obedience. That's the posture that transformed a murderer into a missionary. Here's what will devastate you. Some of you are going to hear God clearly on Monday, and you're going to hesitate. You're going to overthink it. And by Tuesday, the window will close, the moment will pass, and you'll spend the next 6 months wondering why nothing changed. Tuesday is Confirmation Day. This is when heaven seals what obedience unlocked. This is when the whisper becomes a wind, the nudge becomes a move, and the step of faith becomes a pathway of favor. But here's the catch. Tuesday's confirmation only comes to those who survived Monday's test. You can't bypass obedience and expect divine endorsement. You can't skip the uncomfortable and arrive at the supernatural. When you take that leap of faith on Monday, when you make that call, send that text, apply for that position, have that conversation, Tuesday becomes the day when doors that were locked for years suddenly swing open. When people who ignored you start calling you back. When opportunities that seemed impossible start feeling inevitable. This is the sacred rhythm. Sunday you sanctify, Monday you step, Tuesday you see. But it only works if you work it completely. You can't cherry-pick the comfortable parts and expect miraculous results. Right now, I need you to do something. Stop the video for 60 seconds. Get a pen and paper. Write down 3 things God is whispering to you right now. Not tomorrow, right now. No matter how weird they sound, how small they seem, or how scared they make you feel. This is your roadmap for the next 3 days. Because I'm about to show you what happens when ordinary people follow this blueprint and why the enemy is terrified of believers who understand divine timing. Listen to me, chosen one. The atmosphere around you is about to shift so dramatically that even your neighbors will sense something supernatural is happening in your house. The enemy is terrified, absolutely terrified of you walking into these 3 days. Because what happens next will undo 30 years of his assignments over your life. You think this is just another weekend. You think Sunday, Monday, Tuesday are just days on a calendar. No, this is warfare season, and hell is in panic mode because they know what heaven is about to release through you. For decades, the enemy has whispered lies in your ear. You're too old to start over. You're too broken to be used. Your best years are behind you. God has forgotten you. But beloved, those lies are about to be shattered like glass hitting concrete. The devil has been counting on you staying asleep. He's been banking on you choosing comfort over calling. He's been praying, yes. Demons pray too, that you'll treat this prophetic word like just another sermon to file away in your spiritual folder. But heaven has other plans. This is not a sermon. This is a summons, a spiritual court date. And heaven just called your name. Do you hear that sound? That rumbling in the spirit realm? That's the sound of divine chariots approaching. That's the sound of angelic armies mobilizing. That's the sound of breakthrough, breaking through every barrier that has held you back for the last 3 decades. Right now, as I'm speaking these words, there's a supernatural download happening over your life. The Holy Spirit is rewiring your spiritual DNA. He's reactivating gifts that have been dormant. He's breathing life into dreams you buried in 1987. He's restoring vision that got clouded by disappointment and delay. You've been walking around like a beggar when you're actually royalty. You've been living like an orphan when you're an heir. You've been acting like a victim when God has called you to be a victor. But here's what's going to shock you. The very thing you've been running from, that scary step of faith, that uncomfortable conversation, that risky decision, that's exactly what God is going to use to catapult you into your destiny this weekend. Some of you right now are thinking, but I'm 73 years old. I'm 81. My time has passed. Stop it. Stop agreeing with hell's narrative about your life. Moses was 80 when God called him to lead a nation out of bondage. Abraham was 75 when God promised him a future. Caleb was 85 when he said, "Give me this mountain." Your age is not your disqualification, it's your divine advantage. You know why? Because you've got something these young folks don't have. You've got tested faith. You've got weathered trust. You've got seasoned wisdom. You've got scars that have become testimonies. God doesn't need your youth. He needs your yes. He doesn't need your perfection. He needs your permission. He doesn't need your strength. He needs your surrender. And when you give him that, when you step into these 3 days with radical obedience, heaven will move with such force that everyone around you will know that the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob is still in the miracle business. Listen carefully, because I'm about to speak something over your life that will either ignite your faith or offend your flesh. You're not too old. You're not too late. You're not invisible. You are marked. You are remembered. And these 3 days are the fulfillment of the prayers you cried in 1974. Those midnight tears when you thought God wasn't listening. He was recording them in heaven's database. Those desperate prayers when your marriage was falling apart, filed and documented. Those broken-hearted cries when your children went astray, heard and answered. Every single prayer you prayed is about to compound like interest in a heavenly bank account. And this weekend, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, is payday. But here's the catch. Divine appointments require divine alignment. Supernatural breakthrough demands supernatural boldness. Heavenly visitation expects earthly participation. God is about to visit you, but visitation always comes with a test. He's going to ask you to do something that doesn't make sense to your natural mind. He's going to require you to step where you can't see. He's going to call you to trust when logic says doubt. The question is not whether God is ready to move. The question is whether you're ready to move with him when it costs you your reputation, your comfort, your carefully constructed plans. Because what I'm about to tell you next will either launch you into the greatest season of your life or leave you wondering what if for the rest of your days. This visitation that's coming, it's not coming to your church. It's not coming to your pastor. It's coming to your house, to your heart, to your situation. But you've got to prepare the landing strip. You've got to clear the atmosphere. You've got to get your spirit ready for an encounter that will mark you forever. Are you ready to pray the prayer that changes everything? Are you ready to say yes to the God who has been waiting for this moment longer than you have? Lord, I receive it. I step in. I obey. Whatever you're asking, my answer is yes. Whatever door you're opening, I'm walking through. Whatever mountain you're moving, I'm climbing. These 3 days belong to you, and so does the rest of my life. Now, Let me tell you exactly what's going to happen when you pray that prayer with genuine surrender. Listen to me, dear ones. The enemy has been whispering lies in your ear for years. He's been telling you that your season is over, that your voice doesn't matter anymore, that you're too old, too tired, too forgotten to make a difference in these last days. But I'm here to shatter that demonic deception right now. You've built families. You've survived the Great Depression, wars, recessions, personal tragedies that would have broken weaker souls. You've walked through hell and didn't bow. You've buried parents, spouses, dreams, and somehow found the strength to keep breathing, keep believing, keep pressing forward. Don't you dare think your time has passed. God didn't preserve you through 70, 80, 90 years of life just to put you on a spiritual shelf. He didn't sustain your breath through decades of chaos just to make you a spectator in the final act. You are not retired from the kingdom. You are promoted to general status. Here's what the younger generation doesn't understand and what you've forgotten. There's a reason Moses was 80 when God called him to deliver Israel. There's a reason Abraham was 100 when Isaac was born. There's a reason Anna was 84 when she prophesied over baby Jesus in the temple. Your age isn't your limitation, it's your qualification. Scripture tells us in Joel 2:28, "And it shall come to pass afterward, that I will pour out my spirit upon all flesh, and your sons and your daughters shall prophesy, your old men shall dream dreams." Your old men shall dream dreams. Not your young men, your old men. God is saying your dreams get bigger, not smaller, as you age. Your prophetic vision sharpens, not dims, with time. Because you've seen enough of life to recognize God's patterns. You've lived through enough seasons to discern His voice from the noise. You are not just grandparents sitting in rocking chairs waiting for heaven. You are generals in the Spirit, seasoned warriors with battle scars that prove God's faithfulness. You carry wisdom that can't be Googled, faith that can't be faked, and prayers that have been refined by decades of fire. But here's where it gets uncomfortable. This Sunday, Monday, Tuesday window isn't just about you receiving your breakthrough. It's about you becoming the breakthrough for others. There are souls hanging in the balance right now, waiting on your obedience. Your children who've walked away from faith are going to be drawn back because you said yes to God's uncomfortable calling this weekend. Your grandchildren who think Christianity is irrelevant are about to see the power of God through your radical faith. This isn't theory, beloved. This is spiritual warfare, and you're the heavy artillery. When Esther was called to save her people, Mordecai didn't say, "Maybe someone younger should handle this." He said, "Who knows whether you have come to the kingdom for such a time as this?" Your such a time as this isn't behind you. It's staring you in the face this weekend. You want to know why you've felt restless lately? Why sleep has been elusive? Why your spirit has been stirring with unexplained urgency? Because heaven has been preparing you for assignment, not retirement. The prayers you've prayed over your family for decades, the intercession you've made for this nation, the tears you've shed in secret, God has been storing every single one. And this weekend, He's about to pour them out like a mighty river of answered prayer. But it requires you to move when moving feels impossible. It requires you to speak when speaking feels scary. It requires you to step out of comfortable patterns and into dangerous faith. There are souls waiting on your yes today. Generations will shift because you said, "I won't miss this." Your obedience this weekend could be the turning point that saves your bloodline for the next century. You are not just grandparents, you are generals in the Spirit. And generals don't retreat when the battle gets intense. They advance when others fall back. So here's my question for you. Will you let the enemy convince you that your most powerful days are behind you? Or will you rise up and remind hell why they've been so afraid of praying grandmothers and believing grandfathers all these years? Because what happens next depends entirely on whether you still believe God can use seasoned saints to shake the foundations of darkness. Chosen one, if you made it through Sunday's whispers and Monday's stirrings, then Wednesday is about to reveal why God brought you this far. But I need to warn you, What you're about to experience isn't comfortable. It's not supposed to be. Wednesday is the day of divine pressure. And pressure, beloved, isn't proof that God has forgotten you. Pressure is proof that something holy is about to be born. You see, there's something most believers don't understand about God's timing. He doesn't just deliver miracles, He births them. And every birth comes with contractions. Every breakthrough comes with pressure that feels unbearable until you realize it's actually unstoppable. Think about it. Right now, as I'm speaking to you, you've been feeling something building in your spirit, haven't you? That restlessness, that spiritual tension, that sense that everything familiar is shifting beneath your feet. You thought something was wrong with you, but what if I told you that everything is going exactly according to divine design? This isn't punishment, it's preparation. For 70 years, maybe 80, you've watched life unfold. You've buried dreams, buried loved ones, buried parts of yourself you thought were essential. And somewhere along the way, you started believing that your story was winding down instead of gearing up for its greatest chapter. But God doesn't operate by earthly calendars. While the world sees your age and whispers retirement, heaven sees your experience and declares deployment. You felt the pressure in your bones, the ache that doesn't just live in your body, it lives in your story. Every sleepless night, every unanswered prayer, every moment when you wondered if God still sees you. This isn't punishment. It's preparation. You know what the enemy has been whispering to you. You're too old. You've missed your moment. Your best days are behind you. But let me share something that will shatter that lie forever. Abraham was 75 when God called him to leave everything familiar. Moses was 80 when he stood before Pharaoh. Anna was 84 when she recognized the Messiah in the temple. God doesn't test what He doesn't plan to use. But here's what makes Wednesday so critical. This is the day when spiritual pressure reaches its peak. Everything you've been carrying, every burden you've been bearing, every weight you've been shouldering, it all comes to a head today. And you have a choice to make. You can resist the pressure and stay stuck in the familiar pain of yesterday, or you can surrender to the pressure and allow God to birth something new through the very thing that's been breaking you. Listen to me carefully. That pressure in your chest when you think about your unfulfilled dreams, that's not regret, that's pregnancy. Your spirit is carrying something that's ready to be born, but birth requires pressure. That restlessness when you look at your life and feel like something's missing, that's not dissatisfaction, that's divine discontent. God is stirring you because He's not finished with your story. That ache in your soul when you remember who you used to dream of becoming. That's not mourning, that's awakening. Those dreams didn't die, they went into hibernation, waiting for the right season to emerge. This isn't punishment, it's preparation. But pressure always reveals what's really inside us. Under pressure, some people crack, others crystallize into diamonds. The difference isn't age, education, or even faith. The difference is understanding that pressure isn't your enemy, it's your midwife. You see, God has been preparing something in the secret place of your heart for decades. Every tear you've cried watered the seed. Every disappointment fertilized the soil. Every setback positioned you for the comeback that's about to unfold. But here's the truth that will either liberate you or terrify you. Wednesday's pressure is building toward Thursday's confrontation, because what God is birthing in you cannot coexist with what you've been tolerating. Your comfort zones are about to be challenged. Your excuses are about to be exposed. Your fears are about to be confronted by a faith so radical, so bold, so completely dependent on God, that it will either transform you or reveal that you were never really ready for the miraculous life He's been preparing. The pressure you're feeling isn't random, it's surgical. God is applying exactly the right amount of force to exactly the right places to birth exactly what you need for the next chapter of your life. But pressure without purpose is just pain. And purpose without pressure never produces power. So let me ask you something that might shake you to your core. What if the very thing that's been breaking you is actually the thing that's been making you? What if the pressure you've been trying to escape is actually the pressure you need to embrace? What if Wednesday's divine pressure is God's way of saying, I trust you enough to stretch you. I love you enough to labor with you. I believe in you enough to birth something through you that will outlast your lifetime. This isn't punishment, it's preparation. Because Thursday is coming, chosen one. And Thursday brings confrontation. The pressure you're feeling today is preparing you for the decision you'll have to make tomorrow. A decision that will determine whether you birth the miracle or abort the promise. But pressure always leads to confrontation. And Thursday is coming. Chosen one, if you thought Sunday and Monday were intense, Thursday is about to strip away every comfortable lie you've been telling yourself about who you are and what you're capable of. Thursday is the hallway between two doors. One leads to destiny, the other leads back to cycles. And right now you're standing in that hallway and heaven is forcing you to choose. But here's what's happening in the spirit realm that you can't see. Thursday is the day when every demonic assignment that has been tracking your life for decades comes to a head. This isn't coincidence. This is cosmic confrontation. Because the enemy knows something about Thursday that most believers miss entirely. You see, Thursday in the Hebrew calendar represents the fourth day, the day God created the sun, moon, and stars. Genesis 1:16 says, And God made two great lights, the greater light to rule the day, and the lesser light to rule the night. He made the stars also. Thursday is the day heaven establishes rulership, the day light overcomes darkness, the day your true identity gets revealed, and that terrifies hell. Let me tell you what's really been happening in your life. Every rejection you've faced, every door that slammed shut, every time someone looked at you and said you weren't enough that wasn't random persecution. That was strategic warfare. The enemy didn't fight you because of your past. He fought you because of your future. Today you confront the voice that said, you're too old, too late, too broken, too ordinary. That voice has been your invisible prison warden for years, hasn't it? Whispering limitations when God was speaking possibilities, showing you your scars when heaven was revealing your stars. But Thursday is mirror day. Today you look into the reflection of who you really are, and it's going to shock you. Look at Gideon hiding in the winepress, thinking he was the least in his family. But the angel called him mighty man of valor. Look at Moses with a speech impediment, convinced he wasn't qualified, but God called him deliverer of nations. Look at David, the forgotten youngest son, overlooked by his own father, but heaven called him king. The pattern is unmistakable. God specializes in choosing people who feel disqualified, and right now the enemy is terrified that you'll finally remember who you are. You know what happens when a chosen one remembers their identity? Chains start breaking. Not just your chains, but generational chains. Thursday is the day you stop asking God why you, and start declaring, here am I, send me like Isaiah did in chapter 6, verse 8. Here's the confrontation you've been avoiding. You've been more afraid of your power than your pain. You've been more comfortable with familiar suffering than unfamiliar glory. You've chosen the predictable prison over the uncertain palace, but God is about to confront that choice. Every Thursday in Scripture represents a turning point. Jesus was betrayed on Thursday night, but that betrayal led to Resurrection Sunday. Paul was arrested on a Thursday in Jerusalem, but that arrest led to him preaching before kings. Esther approached the king on what could have been her last Thursday, but it became the day that saved a nation. Thursday confronts your excuses. Every reason you've given for why you can't step into greatness is about to be exposed as fear disguised as wisdom. I'm too old, but Moses was 80 when God sent him to Pharaoh. I don't have the education, but Jesus chose fishermen over scholars. I've made too many mistakes, but Paul called himself the chief of sinners before becoming the chief apostle. Your disqualifications in man's eyes are your qualifications in God's plan. Here's what Thursday demands. Brutal honesty about who you've been pretending to be versus who God says you are. You've been playing small to make others comfortable. You've been dimming your light so others won't feel dark. You've been shrinking your dreams to match your circumstances, instead of expanding your faith to match your calling. But Thursday says, enough. The mirror you're looking into today isn't showing you your flaws, it's revealing your destiny. That restlessness you feel, that's not discontent, that's divine displacement. You're feeling cramped because you've outgrown the container you've been living in. Jeremiah 1-5 declares, "Before I formed thee in the belly I knew thee, and before thou camest forth out of the womb I sanctified thee, and I ordained thee a prophet unto the nations." Before you had a birthday, you had a calling. Before you had a mistake, you had a mission. Before you had a limitation, you had a divine commission. Thursday confronts the lie that your best days are behind you. At 70, 80, 90 years old, you're not winding down, you're being wound up for your greatest assignment. Anna the prophetess was 84 when she recognized baby Jesus in the temple. Your age isn't disqualifying you. It's qualifying you for a level of wisdom and authority that only comes through years of relationship with the Almighty. The enemy's greatest fear isn't your past, it's your future awakening. He knows that when you remember who you are, kingdoms shift. When you remember whose you are, mountains move. When you remember why you're here, hell trembles. This is your Thursday confrontation. Will you keep believing the lie that you're ordinary, or will you finally accept the truth that you're chosen? If you're done running from your reflection, if you're tired of living beneath your calling, if you're ready to confront every voice that told you that you weren't enough, comment right now, "I remember who I am." Heaven is listening, angels are watching, and your destiny is waiting for your declaration. Because once you remember who you are, Friday's victory becomes inevitable. You've survived a lot of Fridays, haven't you? Fridays that felt like endings, Fridays that carried the weight of another week of unanswered prayers. Fridays when you wondered if God had forgotten your name, your address, your breaking heart. But this Friday is different. Can you feel it in the air? That shift in the atmosphere. That's not just the weekend approaching. That's heaven, preparing to place a crown on your scars. Listen to me, chosen one. After everything you've walked through, the sleepless Sundays where you wrestled with doubt, the heavy Mondays when you chose obedience over comfort, the testing Tuesdays when your faith felt paper-thin, Friday has arrived as your day of supernatural reward. This isn't just about making it through another week. This is about stepping into the fulfillment of promises that have been delayed but never denied. Today, heaven places the crown on your scars. Do you know what separates Friday from every other day this week? Friday is when God transforms your test into your testimony. Friday is when your pain becomes your platform. Friday is when what the enemy meant for evil, God reveals was actually the setup for your greatest comeback. Think about Joseph. He didn't just survive 13 years of betrayal, slavery, and false accusations. He endured them. He trusted through them. And then came his Friday, the day Pharaoh called him from the prison to the palace. Not gradually, not eventually, instantly. One conversation, one interpretation, one moment of divine favor, and Joseph went from forgotten prisoner to second in command of the most powerful nation on earth. That's what Friday does, beloved. It doesn't just change your circumstances, it catapults your destiny. This is the day Joseph steps out of prison. This is the day Esther walks into the throne room. This is the day the prodigal stops walking and starts running home. But here's what you need to understand about supernatural reward. It only comes to those who've been supernaturally tested. The depth of your Friday blessing is directly connected to the depth of your Sunday through Thursday faithfulness. You think you've been waiting on God? No, dear one. God has been waiting on you. Waiting for you to develop the character that can handle the blessing. Waiting for you to grow the faith that can steward the favor. Waiting for you to build the spiritual muscles that can carry the weight of His glory. Every tear you've cried this week was not wasted water, it was holy irrigation, preparing the soil of your heart for a harvest you never saw coming. Every moment you wanted to quit, but chose to continue was not just endurance, it was you proving to heaven that you're ready for the promotion that's been prepared in your name. Let me ask you something that might shock you. What if your greatest disappointments were actually your greatest qualifications? What if the job you didn't get was because God had a company for you to own? What if the relationship that ended was because God had a spouse worth waiting for? What if the doors that closed were because God had a door that no man can shut? Romans 8:28 doesn't say all things are good. It says, all things work together for good for those who love God and are called according to His purpose. That means your Friday reward isn't just about blessing you, it's about positioning you to bless others who are still walking through their Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. But here's where most believers miss their Friday. They're so exhausted from the journey that they're not postured to receive the destination. Don't you dare be too tired to celebrate when heaven opens its vaults over your life. Don't you dare be too wounded to worship when God vindicates your faith. Don't you dare be too hurt to hope when the very thing you thought was dead suddenly springs to life. This is your Friday. This is your day of supernatural reward. And it's not coming because you're perfect, it's coming because you're persistent. It's not arriving because you never fell, it's here because you always got back up. You know what Friday proves? Friday proves that Sunday's confusion was just the setup, Monday's struggle was just the strengthening, Tuesday's test was just the training, and now Friday is the fulfillment. But I need you to do something for me right now. I need you to comment your age, and I need you to say this out loud, even if you're alone in your room. God's not finished with me, because He's not. At 65, God's not finished with you. At 72, God's not finished with you. At 89, God's not finished with you. Your age isn't your expiration date, it's your experience level. And God uses experienced vessels to carry His most precious cargo. Moses was 80 when he began his real assignment. Sarah was 90 when she conceived her miracle. Caleb was 85 when he said, "Give me this mountain." Your Friday isn't your ending, it's your commencement ceremony. So, straighten your crown, chosen one. Wipe your tears. Lift your head. Because what's coming isn't just reward, it's recognition. Heaven is about to publicly vindicate what hell tried to privately destroy. Your Friday has arrived. Are you ready to receive it? Chosen one, before we go any deeper into what God has planned for these 3 days, I need to ask you something that's going to make you uncomfortable. Are you sure you can handle what's coming? I'm not talking about whether you want it. I'm asking if you're prepared for the weight of what you've been asking for. See, here's what most believers don't understand. We pray for breakthrough, but we're terrified of the responsibility that comes with it. We cry out for promotion, but deep down we know we're not ready for the pressure. We beg God for our dreams to come alive. But we've gotten so comfortable with disappointment that success feels more dangerous than failure. Let me tell you what I've learned after 50 years of walking with God and counseling thousands of broken hearts. Some of us don't fear failure anymore. We've made peace with that. What we fear is success we can't sustain. What we fear is God actually saying yes and discovering we're not strong enough to carry what we asked for. You've been here before, haven't you? Standing at the edge of something God wanted to give you, and you backed away, not because you didn't want it, but because you didn't trust yourself with it. You've seen other people get their breakthrough and fall apart under the weight of blessing. You've watched anointed men and women stumble when favor found them unprepared. So you've done something that breaks God's heart. You've buried dreams to survive grief. You've made peace with less because it hurt too much to hope for more. You've convinced yourself that wanting more is selfish, that settling for scraps is somehow more spiritual. But listen to me carefully. That's not humility. That's fear wearing a religious mask. Jeremiah 29:11 says, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans for welfare and not for evil, to give you a future and a hope." God didn't give you that promise so you could shrink back from it. He gave it to you so you could step into it with holy boldness. Yet here you are, Decades later, still asking for the same breakthrough, still praying for the same doors to open, still believing for the same healing. Why? Because every time God tried to elevate you, you found a reason to disqualify yourself. Every time heaven opened a window, you found a way to talk yourself out of climbing through it. You know what that is? That's not wisdom. That's spiritual sabotage. I want you to imagine something with me right now. Imagine Moses standing at the burning bush, and when God called his name, Moses said, "Lord, I think you've got the wrong guy. I'm not ready for this kind of responsibility. Maybe you should find someone else." Where would the children of Israel be today? Imagine David looking at Goliath and saying, "You know what, God? This giant is too big. I think I'll just stay with the sheep." Where would the kingdom of Israel be? Imagine Mary, when the angel Gabriel appeared to her, saying, "Lord, I'm too young, too poor, too unknown. Surely you need someone more qualified to birth the Messiah." Where would our salvation be? But here's the difference between them and most of us. When God called, they said yes before they felt ready. They stepped into the assignment before they understood the weight of it. They trusted God's choice more than their own fear. You've been waiting to feel ready. You've been waiting to feel worthy. You've been waiting to have all your issues resolved before you step into your calling. But here's what's going to shock you. Readiness isn't a feeling. Worthiness isn't a feeling. These are decisions you make in spite of how you feel. God is about to give you what you stopped believing you deserved. He's about to open doors you stopped knocking on. He's about to heal wounds you convinced yourself were permanent. He's about to resurrect dreams you buried so deep you forgot where you put them. But here's the part that's going to determine everything. Are you going to receive it this time, or are you going to find another excuse to stay small? Because I need you to understand something. Every time you reject what God offers you, you're not just hurting yourself. You're hurting everyone who was supposed to be blessed through your obedience. Every time you shrink back from your calling, you're robbing the world of what God wanted to do through you. There are people waiting for your breakthrough because their breakthrough is connected to yours. There are souls that will never be reached if you don't step into your assignment. There are miracles that will never happen if you keep disqualifying yourself from the very thing God is trying to trust you with. 1 Corinthians 1:27 says, "But God chose what is foolish in the world to shame the wise. God chose what is weak in the world to shame the strong." Do you hear that? God chose what is weak. He didn't choose you despite your weakness. He chose you because of it. Your weakness isn't disqualifying you, it's qualifying you. So let me ask you again, and this time I want you to answer honestly. Can you handle what's coming? Can you handle favor you didn't earn? Can you handle blessing you don't deserve? Can you handle God using you in spite of your past, your mistakes, your fears, your limitations? Because the window is closing. These 3 days aren't just another prophetic word you can file away for later. This is heaven's final boarding call for the assignment you've been running from. And if you don't step through this door, it may not open again in your lifetime. The question isn't whether you're good enough. The question is whether you love God enough to trust His judgment about you more than you trust your own fear about yourself. Listen to me very carefully, chosen one. What I'm about to tell you will either save your destiny or haunt you for the rest of your life. You think you can bookmark this moment. You think you can save this message for later, like some spiritual playlist you'll get to when you feel ready. But let me shatter that illusion right now. You cannot Netflix your calling. You cannot pause prophetic timing. You cannot ask God to hold while you finish living your comfortable life. Here's the brutal truth that will keep you awake tonight. This prophetic window has an expiration date, and it's not negotiable. Esther had one moment, one chance to approach the king, one window to save her people. The scripture doesn't say she had multiple opportunities. It says, "If I perish, I perish." Why? Because she understood something most believers never learn. Divine windows don't wait for your convenience. You've been praying for breakthrough for months, maybe years. You've been crying out to heaven, begging God to move in your situation. But here's what will devastate you. You don't get to ask for rain and then ignore the clouds when they come. Right now, this very moment, those clouds are gathering over your life. The rain you've been praying for is about to fall, but it's coming in the form of 3 specific days: Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. And if you miss it, if you choose comfort over courage, if you decide to wait for a more convenient season, you will spend the rest of your life wondering what could have been. Noah didn't get a second chance to build the ark. When the rain started, the door was shut. Moses didn't get multiple opportunities to lead Israel out of Egypt. When Pharaoh's heart hardened one final time, the moment passed. David had one shot with Goliath, one stone, one moment that defined everything. Some of you are sitting there thinking, but God is patient. He'll give me another chance. And yes, God is patient, but his patience doesn't mean his timing is flexible. There's a difference between God's mercy and God's moments. Here's what terrifies me for some of you. 3 months from now, you're going to remember this exact moment. You're going to remember sitting here, feeling your spirit leap inside you, absolutely knowing that heaven was speaking directly to your situation. And you're going to regret that you chose fear over faith. The Israelites wandered 40 years in the wilderness because they missed their moment. 40 years. An entire generation died in the desert because when God said, "Go up and possess the land," they said, "Let's send spies first. Let's think about this. Let's wait for a better time." You cannot spy on your destiny. You cannot research your way into God's promises. You cannot delay divine timing because it feels scary. This Sunday, Monday, Tuesday window isn't coming back. Not like this. Not with this intensity. Not with this specificity. This is your Jericho moment, and the walls are about to fall, but only if you march when God says march. Some of you are waiting for a feeling. You're waiting to feel brave enough, ready enough, worthy enough. But faith isn't a feeling, it's a decision. And God is asking you to decide right now, in this moment, whether you trust him enough to step into the unknown. The Israelites could hear the promised land. They could smell its fruit. They could see its borders. But they died in the wilderness because they wouldn't cross over. Don't let that be your story. The enemy knows your destiny is tied to these 3 days. That's why your phone will ring with distractions. That's why emergencies will suddenly appear. That's why you'll feel tired, overwhelmed, or doubtful. Because hell is terrified of what you become when you finally step into what God has prepared. If this is your window, and your spirit knows if it is, write this in the comments. I'm stepping in. Don't wait for the feeling. Step with faith. Because after Tuesday night, this particular door closes, and you'll either be standing on the other side of your breakthrough, or explaining to yourself why you chose safety over your calling. The clock is ticking, chosen one. And time stops for no one. Chosen one. As we come to the end of this sacred moment together, I want you to remember 3 things that could change everything for you. First, your prayers have not been forgotten. Every tear you've cried in the darkness, every whispered plea when no one was listening, every moment you felt abandoned, God has heard them all. And this Sunday, Monday, Tuesday window isn't random. It's his response. Second, this is not about perfection. It's about obedience. You don't have to have it all figured out. You don't have to feel ready. You just have to say yes when heaven calls your name. Third, timing is everything in the kingdom of God. What seems like delay has actually been preparation. What felt like silence was actually strategy. And what you're about to step into has been worth every moment of waiting. But here's what I need you to understand in the depths of your spirit. You are not walking this path alone. The same God who parted the Red Sea is parting the waters in your life. The same God who made a way for Daniel in the lion's den is making a way for you in your impossible situation. The same God who raised Jesus from the dead is breathing resurrection life into your dreams that seemed buried. You have a community here, a family of believers who understand your struggle because they've walked through their own wilderness seasons. We're here, praying with you, standing with you, believing with you, even when your own faith feels weak. So let me ask you this. When you look back on your life 10 years from now, what story do you want to tell? Will it be the story of the one who almost stepped into their destiny but chose comfort instead? Or will it be the testimony of the one who heard heaven's call and had the courage to answer? Let's pray together, right now, wherever you are. Heavenly Father, I come before you right now with my hand on the shoulder of every person watching this message. Lord, you see their hearts. You know their struggles. You understand their fears. And you love them more than they could ever comprehend. Father, I pray for supernatural courage to flood their spirits right now. Where there has been fear, release boldness. Where there has been doubt, pour out faith. Where there has been delay, open doors that no man can shut. Lord, you have marked this weekend, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, as their appointed time. Don't let them miss it because of intimidation or hesitation. God, I pray for divine wisdom to guide their steps. Give them clear direction. Speak to them in dreams, through circumstances, through your word. Let them know beyond any doubt that you are leading them into their breakthrough season. I pray for strength, Lord. Some of them are weary from the battle. Some feel like giving up, but you are their strength when they are weak. You are their hope when despair tries to overwhelm them. Breathe new life into their spirits right now. Father, bless their families, protect their relationships, provide for their needs, heal their bodies, restore what the enemy has stolen, and position them to be a blessing to others as you bless them. Lord, let them feel your presence in this moment. Let peace wash over them like a warm embrace. Remind them that they are chosen, they are loved, and they are not forgotten. In Jesus' mighty name, I pray. Amen. If this message has touched your heart, I want to hear from you. Drop a comment below and tell me how God is speaking to you about these 3 days. Share your prayer requests. We believe in the power of corporate prayer, and this community will stand with you. And if you know someone who needs to hear this word, please share this video. Someone in your circle is waiting for their breakthrough, and you might be the vessel God uses to get this message to them. None of us walks this journey alone. Thank you for staying with me through this entire message. Your faithfulness to listen shows me that your heart is tender toward the things of God. If you haven't already, please subscribe to this channel and hit that notification bell. We're building a community of believers who refuse to settle for ordinary when God has called us to extraordinary. Remember, chosen one, your destiny is not delayed, it's been divinely timed. These 3 days are your moment. Step into them with confidence, knowing that the God who called you is faithful to complete what he started in you. Until we meet again, may the peace of God guard your heart. May his wisdom guide your steps, and may his favor surround you like a shield. You are loved, you are chosen, and your breakthrough is here. God bless you.